Hello everyone, welcome to my live stream. I'm going to work some more on my February Gryphon illustration. I've got some Higgins Black Magic ink, waterproof, which is good because I'm going to be using water for the coloring, and my deleter pen holder with the G pen nib. What I want to do is add more details to the line work here so that it stands out on its own, and then that way it just looks that much more complete once all the color is laid down as well. I might use a different nib to do the border, because with the G pen you can get a nice variation of line weight. So you can go thin and thick with just a little pressure. But for the border, I think I want something more steady. But we'll see. I might just use this. Might just try to keep my hand steady, because it's easier not to have to switch them out. And the other places I wanted to add some more was the top edge of the nest here, so that it is a stark definition between this and this. And then also underneath the Gryphon, which just makes it seem heavier, like it's casting a shadow, like the lines themselves have a shadow being cast. So I'm gonna just get my browser open real quick. And I'm gonna do my best not to knock this ink pot over. Also try not to get any ink on myself because it's way down in there. See how that goes. Okay. Yeah, dang. This is like at least half gone. It is a really old thing of ink. I'm just gonna start over here. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. I'm going to make sure to start on the opposite side from my handedness so that I give myself the most chance to not accidentally rub my hand in it and smear the ink all over the page. I have learned that from experience. Decided to use a dip pen for this because the paper being so absorbent, since it's watercolor paper, is really killing my micron pens. I mean, I know I said I wanted to use them up, but I didn't want to waste them. It feels like kind of a waste when they could have gone farther if they hadn't been used on watercolor paper. So with the dip pen, all I have to do is keep dipping and get more ink. And I have so much ink, so I'm not gonna, there's no worry about running out. Like, this pot I'm using right now is getting low, but I've got at least 2 other full pots of black ink. trying to be extra careful not to get ink on the nib holder. It's probably gonna happen, but as long as I can be aware of it, then I won't accidentally transfer it to the page here. That's the most important thing. I don't really care about getting my hand dirty. I can always just clean that. I can't really clean the ink off the page though. Okay, so one last line and then the tail starts covering the nest, so that marks the end of the front of the nest. Yep, I think that already makes a difference. Really makes it stand out. Makes it look like this is a different plane than this one. I wonder if I should outline the branches in the same way, or if that would be too much. Because even though I'm using this line here to differentiate two different areas, I don't want to bring too much attention away from the Gryphon. Maybe I'll do the extra ink on the Gryphon first, and then I'll see what I think about the branches. Trying to be extra careful. I really do not want to smear this ink, because it's waterproof once it's dry, but it can take a while to dry in the first place. I learned this technique of adding to one's lines after they're all done in the first place from one of those how to draw manga books. I don't know if anybody remembers those. They were super popular. They had tons of knockoffs and spin-offs. The one I got on inking had some great ideas. Like, it just never crossed my mind until I read that oh, you don't have to be done inking when you're done inking. It sort of felt like cheating, right? Like, you should get it all done in one go, and what you did was what you did, and that is what you have to live with. But no, it's not. You can keep adding to it. It's not cheating. In fact, going in and perfecting your lines, adding to them, making them even more powerful, I think that's just skill. Now, I don't want to just outline the Gryphon. What I'm doing is only on the underside, so I'm not going to do right here because this isn't where gravity is. Because I'm figuring I'm going to do a light source that's basically coming down, because we're in a tree in this scene, and so the light's going to be pretty diffused. So it's mostly the source is just because it's going to be the sun is up in the sky. It's not going to be a very direct light source. So it's just going to be a softer light source coming from above. That's why all my extra lines on the Gryphon are going to be underneath. I want to add more to this foot too. I don't want to put too much at the tip of the claws because then that will make them lose their sharp appearance. Still want them to look sharp. The squirrels and robins are not exactly predatory animals, but they've got sharp claws. I think it's because they both go in trees. They need the claws to climb. Yes, that's looking good. Now, gotta be extra careful. I'm gonna do this front foot. Same thing here. I don't want to put too much on the claws. I want them to continue looking sharp. This isn't actually, I talked about shadow, but this isn't actually shading. It's just trying to give the lines themselves more presence. Here, I think I might do it on the inside of this. You dry down here. Okay, you seem dry. Yes, 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 yes. Come back up here. A little bit right there. And at this little ankle part. Yes, I think that's looking pretty good. And I'll do a little bit on the arm, the upper arm. And it's supposed to look like a little tiny fluffy bird feathers here. But if I add this, then it will make the arm stand out from the body and make it look like it's in front of the body, which it is. And now, I'm going to do the bottom rim of the wing. Even though the wing has all these different feathers, I'm going to ink it as if it's just one solid piece. Taper up a little bit. And then down here, taper up. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. sure if I want to do anything with the tail. I'm not looking at the reference image now, but what I remember is it's really, these furs are really, I guess sparse is the word. They're not close together and fluffy. They're like fuzzy, like it's, so there's a lot of air in between each one, and I think if I do these dark lines, it will take away that airy feeling of the fuzzy tail. I think I might leave that. Now I'm thinking about these pine needles. They do sort of blend in with the Gryphon, but since there's just so many of them, I'm afraid if I ink them like an outline, that will just make them stand out way too much. Cause like it saying between ones like this, where they're so close together, it'll end up looking like one big black line in between the two. And that's really attention getting, and I don't want attention right there. That's not a main focus of this drawing. Maybe I'll do the same thing as I've done with the Gryphon, and only do dark lines where it's the bottom, where gravity is pulling down. Maybe that'll make it stand out a little bit without being too much. Make sure not to touch this in case it's still wet. Okay, now I gotta remember it's this side that I want to do. And I'll try not to be too heavy with it as well. But I still want to make it taper off. I don't want it to just sort of end bluntly. I want it to look kind of like a natural transition from a thicker to a thinner line. This is probably dry by now. Yep, looks like that's all dry. So I'm gonna put my hand more naturally on the page. Looks like the ink is drying. No, don't dry. Not until I put you on the paper. It's one of the drawbacks of dip pens. I really like them for inking, but they've got some challenges. Of course, there's a risk of dripping or tipping over your ink pot, and you've got to practice to figure out how to use the nib right. You can't just use them like you would a micron pen where it's a standard size that doesn't change. But I mean, that's one of the benefits of these pens. But it can be a learning curve. And then of course the ink can dry on the nib if you don't use it up fast enough. And that can clog the nib, and you have to clean it before you can continue. And then it's not that bad for me now, but when I first started using these, I was so used to the more common type of pens that having to dip the nib into the ink like every minute or so was like such a huge inconvenience. It was really frustrating. But now it doesn't bother me. And then supposedly the nibs run out, like they'll get all bent up eventually, but I actually haven't had that happen. Maybe I'm more gentle, or maybe it's because I'm not like a mangaka drawing 30 pages a week or something. I could see how they get super messed up with tight schedule like that, so you're like in a rush, and then you're also drawing so much. I'm doing sort of the Art Nouveau thing with these lines, where if it's a needle crossing over a needle, I'm not going to give it a heavier line. It's like right here, I'm not going to draw one, but right here I will. I just love that about Alphonse Mucha, if that's how you pronounce it. That's my favorite artist next to Hokusai. And they're from the same era, so I guess it doesn't surprise me. My two favorite artists, what do you call it? Super famous artists, well-known artists. I think Mucha was actually inspired by Japanese woodblock prints. I think I read that sometime. How's that looking? Yeah, I think that's looking good. I think it's giving it the definition that I wanted to make it stand out from the other elements in the page without being so strong that it's taking over the rest of the page. I think the effect's really nice on this. The ones that point straight down, once I add color, that will make it more subtle too. So it'll just end up being one of those details that's like, oh, I didn't notice that, if you look at it long enough. Or if you watch these videos and you'll know about it already. Let's see, I don't think that's enough of an angle to merit a whole line, but I'll do a little bit further up. Yeah, this is looking good. When I add details is always the funnest part of any piece. Doesn't matter the style or the subject. Adding those little finishing touches is just so, it's what makes art fun for me. Yes, yes, after all this work, look at it, look at it. I need these to be a little bit more subtle transition. There, that's better. Taking a look at this again. Yeah, I think that's good. It's really bringing them forward, I think. It's really making them look like they're supposed to be in front of the Gryphon, which they are. That is where they're meant to be. Ink's drying again. Fill her up. I always swipe my nib on the rim of the ink pot. That really helps with dripping. As long as I remember to do that, I don't want to say never, but almost never. I can't guarantee it, but it feels like I never drip. As long as I swipe it first. Boop. Do this one too. It's coming out onto the wing. And sometimes when I'm working on a piece where I really need to focus on what I'm looking at, my eyes will stop focusing and they'll just literally go out of focus. Like maybe as I'm trying so hard they give up and they get tired. I'm having that happen. I'm like, no, focus. You need to keep your eye on these details. If I lose my place, I could mess up. I've had that happen before. I lose focus and then I start again and I'm like, no, wait, I wasn't working on that part, and then it's messed up because of that. It's already drying again. Come on, stay with me. Stay with me, ink. Doing these pine needles, I think I can probably do the border with this nib. It's working out pretty well. Can't forget these ones. And I'll probably, before I'm completely done with this, use ink again after coloring, because there's a technique I learned from another art book. It was a watercolor and ink book. It might even have been the title. It's packed away right now, so I can't look it up. But it was such brilliant ideas how to use ink on top of watercolor to give extra definition to stuff like feathers and such. So that's what I did in my January Gryphon illustration. So I definitely want to continue that with this one. So I'll probably add some texture to the wings, stuff like that. But I want to do the coloring first before I do any of those details, because once the coloring is done, that's where you know where the details will be able to stand out. Because if you do the details and then you end up coloring it so dark you can't really see them anyway, it's kind of like a waste of effort. Alright, how's that? It's looking good, I think. Almost done. Trying not to get lost here in this mass of see. So I think this is open air. That's another good reason to do these lines, because it helps detangle these. So you can tell what's supposed to be a pine needle and what's supposed to be just the background. Come on, come on. So that's a needle and that's a needle. Right here. There, good. That's good. Miss anything over on this side? Go up here now. So there's little tiny bits, and then this one underneath. And this one underneath. You're an individual needle. And I think these are two separate. I'm gonna make this one as well. Alright, how's that? I think that's pretty good. I'll just do a little bit on the eye right here. Not a lot, not a complete. Oh yeah, that's good, that's good. Just gives it some depth. I love that. I love that look. Okay. Now I wanted to do the border. I want it to stand out as if it's not part of the scene, because it's not. Hopefully I can get nice even lines. Just trying to do it nice and easy. Should have put my glasses on, but now the pen's wet. Don't want this ink to dry on there. Mess up my nib. I don't have to go get another one of these. I bought a bunch of nibs at once because of how I read that they get messed up. But I've never needed to replace them. There were times I thought I did, but that's when I learned, oh, the ink dried on it. That's what the problem is. But even though this is waterproof ink, even though it dries on the nib, you can usually just wash it off with water. I think it's only waterproof on paper. What's that? Yeah, I think that stands out really well. Okay, good opportunity for me to put my glasses on. I always forget I don't have to wear glasses all the time, only when I'm working on close-up stuff. And even then, it's not like I have to wear them. I just make it so much easier to see, and then they make sure that I don't get a headache if I'm working for a long time. That's what first led me to getting glasses, is I started getting migraine headaches, and then I had a really crazy one where I couldn't see, and it turned out it was I called my optometrist because I still went in for regular health checkups or whatever, even though I didn't need glasses to see. And they told me it was migraine with aura, because it was so weird. I was like, what's wrong with me? I could not see out of the center of my vision. I could see stuff peripherally, but then it didn't matter because I had such a horrific headache that it was, and I was like right in the middle of work. I was working IT then, and that's why the headache started, because I was working 10 to 12 hour shifts, and the room was so bright that whole time. We had at least half a dozen monitors to keep our eye on and monitor at all time, monitor the monitors. And then the overhead lights were always on full blast. So I started developing migraines, which I had never had before. And getting glasses solved the problem. My optometrist described it as my eyes are only so bad that it was kind of like my eyes were lifting a 1 pound weight, and it's like, okay, 1 pound weight, that's like nothing, right? But if you're doing a 1 pound weight non-stop for 10 hours, it doesn't matter how strong you are, you're going to get tired and sore. And so that's what my eyes were doing. They were constantly focusing just a little bit extra for 10 to 12 hours. And luckily, I don't have to work those kind of hours anymore. I'm so grateful for that. But now that I have glasses, it's so much easier to see when I'm doing stuff like this. If I put them on, it's easier to see, and I can see. It's like putting on little magnifying glasses. Everything's slightly closer and clearer. I don't think this line is as even as I like. Right here it's kind of thin. There. Let me look at this. Yes, that is great. It's really making it stand out. Just gonna finish all the other ones. a little something with this heart to make it more curved. There. There, I'm done. I'm just gonna fill in the border behind the heart too. Ooh, yes, this looks good. Okay. Yay! I don't know if I need to do this on the outside of the border. Oops, I smudged it a little bit. Where did that come from? Alright, hold on. Let's see if I can erase this. Mystery smudge. Tiniest, do I have some ink on my hands? No. Must just come from the edge of this. There. Yay. I love it when an ink smudge is still fresh enough that I can erase it. I'm not going to wipe those eraser shavings away until this is dry. Do not want to cause a smudge after I just got rid of a smudge. I'm tempted to use my whole arm to do this instead of just using my wrist, but I know I would lose control over the direction of the line. It's really important that I follow the line. Hopefully these are coming out even looking. Seems like it when I pull my head away. When I'm looking up close here, it kind of doesn't look like it. It looks all uneven. That must be a lot due to the texture of the watercolor paper. It's not smooth by any means. It's cold press watercolor paper. Yay, this is looking great. Oh, ink right there. And when you do these heavier, thicker lines, the ink runs out so much faster. It makes sense, but it always surprises me, even though I should know it's coming. really good, I think. It's the underside of this one, and yeah, I'm looking at it now, not finished. I really don't think I need to do this outside line. I think just the inside one is good enough. I think there's enough contrast between this is just plain white space and then the border with all its details and stuff. Something else that can happen with dip pens is if your nib gets caught on the paper, you can kind of do a little spray of ink. Tiniest little, you barely even notice it, but I've had that happen before. It's not doing it this time though, so that's great. Yeah. One little section left. Already out of ink. Refill. Oh, hi, Kaylee. Hi, thanks for stopping by. This last little section to go. Last little bit, last little centimeter. Kind of uneven. Even it out, even it out. What's that? It's kind of uneven right here too. Can't tell if this is dry. It looks suspiciously shiny. Now let me look at this. Maybe I can get these without touching that part that I inked. Yes. Since there's no pencil to smudge, it's okay if I use my hand. Okay, let me look at this. If I hold it up. Can't decide if I should do something with the hearts to make them stand out. I think maybe I will just add a little ink to this big heart right in the upper center. Because it kind of seems like it's, like since it's so big it ought to stand out a little bit from the rest of these, but like these two in particular, for some reason, to my eye, stand out even more than the rest. So if any of them are going to stand out, I think the middle one should. Try not to touch this line that I just did on the bottom. And this gives me an opportunity to make this more pointed. For some reason the bottom of the heart came out kind of soft. I want it to look more sharp. That's actually great. That's a good idea. How's that? And maybe I'll just do it on the bottom like that. That looks kind of nice. How it gradually goes from thicker to thinner up at the top. I'm going to do a little bit more on this first side. How's that? It still looks a bit more done on the second side. Add a little bit more. Now, how does that look? Okay, a little bit more here. This side. Just want it to look even now. Come on, almost there. Nice and even. I better stop there as I'm pulling up the page just a little bit. Some fibers in my nib. Okay, how's this overall? I think that looks really good. Maybe the only thing that I might I'm thinking about the top edge of the nest in the background, but no, I think I should leave that. It's supposed to be further away, so I'll keep it with thin lines. Because if these lines were real, like if everything really was outlined in real life, perspective would still dictate that the lines would be thinner because they're farther away. I guess the only other thing is this little patch of branches here. I think I'll leave them. So if I do a bunch of dark here, it'll make it look unbalanced. Because right now it's nice and balanced from side to side. So I'll just use color alone to differentiate this from the nest. But I don't really need this to stand out for any reason. Just taking one last look over. I decided in the beginning that I wasn't going to do anything with the flowers because I want them to look really light and soft. I don't want any heaviness to them since they're delicate little flowers. So I'm not doing any extra inking on them. Yep. This is going to be it for the first couple rounds of inking. There'll be one more round of inking after I'm done coloring. So that means I'm done for today. And tomorrow I might start coloring on this, or I might start a new piece. We'll see how things go tomorrow and see what I can work on. Thank you for watching.